Hello there. Today's video is the first one of the series where we are building up a discussion focusing on landscape architectural approaches in SEETHAWAKA Wet Zone Botanical Garden. It will provide a brief introduction over the SEETHAWAKA Botanical Garden and a deeper discussion regarding its geologic location and also the overall effects to the garden with its geologic features. Before we move on, let's have some idea about the context and also the conceptual background of these botanic gardens. Botanical garden is a concept came with gardening but performs beyond its original intention. These types of gardens are designed as institutions. It provides facilities for research, conserves endemic, endangered or threatened species, displays the plant's details and cultivates. Before going to the geologic details of the SEETHAWAKA Botanical Garden, here are the 5 Sri Lankan botanical gardens where various plant species from different climatic zones are conserved, and each garden contains its own unique spatial attributes that are manipulating the users in different ways, providing the experiences at different levels. Paradenia Royal Botanical Garden. Pakala Botanical Garden. SEETHAWAKA Botanical Garden. Marajawila Botanical Garden. Hanarathkota Botanical Garden. We will also have a separate discussion comparing these botanical gardens' design approaches and the sensitivity of the application of the landscape design features in a separate episode. We should thoroughly mention that this video series might include our assumptions based on our study and based on landscape architectural theories. Here at first, we try to build more of a bridge between the design implementations and the landscape architectural principles and theories accommodated by geology and geomorphology of the context. But we should mention that this is a critical overview of the SEETHAWAKA Wet Zone Botanic Garden's landscape architectural approaches with reference to its geology. Now, let's move with a brief introduction on SEETHAWAKA Botanical Garden. SEETHAWAKA is located on the edge of the western province of Sri Lanka in Colombo district, very close to Varisewana. Tumadarapuwakpidia road runs in front of the park's entrance. And also this area consists with several waterfalls and the Labagama Reservoir. The initial area of present SEETHAWAKA Botanical Garden was a tea and rubber estate. Currently garden occupied area was previously abandoned, which was latterly reformed by Land Reform Authority of Sri Lanka. It has been designed considering the natural formation of the land and geological pattern. The design of SEETHAWAKA Botanical Garden is implemented under the strategies of the original concept of botanical gardens. As a whole, it can be considered as a good landscape architectural representation. This garden performs ex situ conservation where the plants are conserved off-site. "2014 was the year when the garden was open to the public. The garden itself inherits a minimalistic structural approach with the building orientations and also inherits the original design intention of conservation with specified zones provided for the preservation of different types of species. A formatum is there with a vast variety of ferns, an arboretum is there with a vast collection of endangered and endemic species. With all these things accommodated, the landscape design of the garden performs in a nice way, providing users a pleasant experience with its unique orientation of the landscape features. Now, let's head into the influence of the geology and geomorphology to the overall performance of the botanical garden with its design, and the consciousness over geology and geomorphology within the design. Since geology is followed by many secondary factors, let's start trying to define the influence with those factors. The climatic zone is lowland wet zone. Floristic zone is northern wet lowlands. Inherits well-developed lattisols as major soil type. Major rock formation comes from highland series, Precambrian rocks or metamorphic rocks. Elevation starts from 100 meters above sea level. Fracture system complex or lithological units can be identified as Wani complex. Vegetation type spreads from 100 to 300 meters elevation, rainforests below 300 meters. Geologic location of SEETHAWAKA Botanical Garden has been chosen in accordance with the achievability of the pleasant sceneries, which finally affects all the types of functions within the garden itself. The following factors have affected in generating a unique spatial experience and an identical landscape with the orientation of the landscape elements. Location amidst multiple mountain ranges. Geologically controlled stream patterns, drainage. Ridge and valley system. A lowland associated with the general trend and an intersection point of two fractures. Since the relative location of the botanic garden lies within a landscape surrounded by a set of mountains that ranges between 100 to 380 meters from mean sea level, the users are always provided with the dynamic sceneries which are followed by the topographic conditions with these massive level changes. The effect of the level changes is high since the ridge pattern of this area is the beginning of the Central Highlands. The inner features of the landscape are used in an interpretative manner, responding to existing landscape processes like energy flow, material flow, and species flow between the ecosystems. The natural formation of the trends and the geologically controlled stream patterns are used to formulate the central cascade system, which generates the edge effects both ecologically and psychologically, and around that they have provided this pleasant sequence of the spatial changes. The origins of this landscape structure are still there, and it's identifiable within the garden, with the primary geological processes like sedimentation and erosion, but they have responded to these processes to be less negatively affecting to the garden landscape by providing a better drainage system. Also, exposed soil mosaics are not visible within the design area since the design crew has paid attention to those geologic processes within the design process as to maintain the original interpretations of the landscape. So, that's it for today's episode. Under the influence of geology and geomorphology for SEETHAWAKA Wet Zone Botanical Gardens design. This is more of a conclusive overview of our study over landscape architectural approaches implemented in SEETHAWAKA Wet Zone Botanic Garden. Thus, the leftover parts, what comes under the landscape architecture theory, will be discussed in the next episodes. And their applications will also be revealed. So, see you guys in next episode.